So I just posted this cool meme where it's basically like a pie chart, and there's like a tiny little sliver that says the shit you know, and then a slightly bigger sliver that says the shit you know you don't know, and then the rest of the pie chart is like the universe, and it's the shit you don't know you don't know. And I think that is a great visualization that we should all keep in the back of our minds. You should keep it there at all times. It should be your operation mandate. And while I definitely believe that you should speak confidently about what you know, I think it's always important to go back and say, well, I know what I know, I'm confident in who I am, but I'm always open to new information. I think that's key. But I'm bringing this up specifically because I've got a question for the freedom fighters and the truth people and the, what do you want to call it, the conservative movement. Basically all the voices that are fighting to save the West and to save freedom, right? That's what you're saving when you're saving the West. You're saving the principle of freedom, and freedom in a very specific understanding, because there are multiple understandings of that concept, by the way. There's the freedom to do whatever the hell you want with zero restrictions placed upon you, which means that includes the freedom to just walk in anybody's house and take all their shit and no consequences. There's the freedom from consequences that people say they want. I want freedom, but when they say that, are they saying, do I want freedom that's based in true justice and fairness? The old idea that my freedom cannot infringe upon your freedom? Yeah, what about that? Right? It's the no masters above and also the no slaves below concept. That's Western civilization. That was the dream. Doesn't mean it was it doesn't mean we've achieved it. Doesn't mean it was exercised in all times and places. So there's nothing wrong with critiquing from within the West and hoping to change and improve and hearken, back to a real definition of freedom from real philosophers and real thinkers and real sages, versus the freedom your government is talking to you about when they say it, which is a sort of Marxist freedom, which is, or a what would be another, like a solipsist type freedom, or a anarchist type freedom, which is not, it never produces what we all hope freedom would produce, which is prosperity and true justice for those that violate that freedom, right? And in order to have it, you need some law and order, right? So it gets really, you got to get into the details on these arguments. I'm not going to make this whole thing about this, but I just wanted to bring it up because, and why am I bringing this up? Well, we better get it right what version of freedom you're fighting for, first of all. And if you truly are a believer in freedom, then what's with the policing and hall monitoring of everybody's opinion that doesn't agree with yours? Why are you behaving, so many, those people out there, why are they behaving just like the people they're condemning, the radical leftists and the totalitarians and the Karens and the wokes and all these people trying to force everybody to live according to their worldview, which we're finding out is completely incongruent with the facts of reality. So, you're becoming what you hate. See, I come from the school of free inquiry. Everything is on the table for investigation, for critique, for thinking about, and in order to think, you have to risk being offensive, you have to risk making mistakes. You have to risk being wrong, God forbid. And it's so thinking is a process. Coming to your worldview and your beliefs and what theories you adopt and what ones you don't. That's a process. It's an unfolding process. You know, I had people that were trolling me recently on social media that were like, you've changed. You're no longer who you used to be. You think differently than the old David used to think. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for the compliment. What's your excuse? I better be different than I was, say, 15 years ago. I have better grown and evolved and learned some things that I didn't know back then. The previous version of myself is always going to be conquered by the newest version of myself. That's how I operate. It'd be the same in my martial arts career. If you sparred with me 15 years ago and you sparred with me today, you're going to be up against two very different people. Light years of difference. The newer version of me would absolutely decimate the older version of me, and that's by design. That's how I know I'm improving and creating and growing and learning. That's natural. And I think people find it threatening that you're not consistent with everything, that you make changes over time, that you learn and grow, and you're just honest about it. And that's threatening to people who are looking for a fixed view of things, because that eases anxiety about what you don't know. That big pie chart, all the things you don't know, that gives people absolute terror inside. See, for me, as a free thinker, and the people that agree with me and are in that camp of being truly free inquirers and free thinkers, and we're just exploring here. We're trying to figure these things out. We're going to all see things differently. That's totally cool. In fact, it's promoted because we need as many ideas on the table as possible when you're trying to look at this entire puzzle that nobody has figured out. Nobody's sitting at the classified tables. Nobody has it all. No one person has it all. Nor will it ever be that way. And yet it gets stifling in this environment that used to be, when I came up in this alternative research community in the early 2000s, it was a totally different beast than it is now. It celebrated freedom. It celebrated different opinions. You'd go to these conferences and all the speakers would totally disagree on so many different things, but that was like applauded. Because everybody there is mature enough. I think it's maturity. Mature enough to know what they don't know. They have that pie chart example, that meme I'm describing. They have it in the back of their minds. That's what it was. It was a bunch of detectives getting around a table and sharing notes. And then you get the same group of detectives around the table a year later, and everybody's got different ideas now. And that's a good sign. You want to evolve. Doesn't mean everybody's right. Doesn't mean we always find it. But you got to have some people out there advocating for ideas that nobody's considering. Like, did you ever think that some of this public work that people like me do is also just a thought exercise? And that's maybe what it's always been? I mean, I know that's what it is for me. No matter how passionately or convicted or convinced I may personally be about certain ideas, theories, or ways of seeing things, that's besides the point. If you have that pie chart in your mind about what you know, what you think you know, what you know you don't know, and then the unknowns that you just have no idea in the world about, which is the vast majority of the knowledge available, I think. If you have that in your mind, you're not threatened by opposing opinions. You don't take it personally. You don't have to spend your time trolling everybody and attacking everybody and then making YouTube videos trying to take everybody down that you don't like and calling them you wouldn't believe the torrents of abuse. But it's to be expected. I mean, we're dealing with general humanity here, so it's to be expected. And thank God it's not everybody. I mean, thank God for those of you out there who are open-minded people and can sit there and think of a theory and then, put it on the back burner and bring in another theory and think about that. And like, we're just all trying to figure out this grand mystery. Thank God for people like you. I see your comments. I cherish them. I see your follows and your support. You're what get me up in the morning. Give me hope to say, all right, we do have thinking happening in the world. Amazing. But because we had a bunch of newbies join this research community, they figured out that there's something going on behind the scenes of media and government and big pharma and all these things. They figured these things out yesterday, and now they're the experts coming in to shout you down. They're the white belts in the room. It's hilarious. It's predictable, but it's like they didn't know the basics when they came into this research. Oh, we're challenging everything, buddy. Nothing is sacred anymore. There's no sacred cows left, because the truth has that effect. The pursuit of the truth has that effect as well. It should be. If it's true, it's robust, and it doesn't even need defending. It's obvious, right? And so when people go and try to point out the obvious, and they're getting attacked by people who, it's just amazing to see the defense mechanisms in these types that are trolling everybody and making the whole movement look bad. And I think many of them there might even be some deeper things going on behind this, but let's not get too conspiratorial on that right now. Let's just keep it as, oh, everybody just means well. You find out quick enough that no, everybody doesn't mean well. People are trying to mold and shape reality to their preferences, not to the higher standard of that pie chart. Right? Not to that. And so I just wanted to comment on that and encourage you. If you're out there and you desire to be a free thinker, you got to start with the desire to be that way. You got to see the benefits of that. You got to get into the thinkers that are going to stimulate that in you. There's levels to this game. And what's really interesting to me, is that the true free thinkers in this movement, what I think are the genuine article, the real, true, genuine people that genuinely want to help humanity, genuinely want to save freedom, genuinely want to promote good values, genuinely want to peer behind the veil and expose the lies and the corruption, and want to see sanity and reason and truth and justice come to this world. None of them have the big followings. I find that interesting. I've always found that interesting because it's nothing new. See, we like to think, oh, we live in this time, 2025. All the problems are solved. All the riddles are solved. There's nothing more to explore. We've explored it all. ChatGPT knows everything. So just whatever ChatGPT says, as it filters through mainstream media articles and just puts it all together in one summary for you, that's somehow a valid research opinion. I mean, as much of a tool as these AI things can be, because they can help you organize and collate and collect information, but it's not supposed to do your thinking for you. I really hope you understand that. You're becoming artificially intelligent. Artificial, not genuine, not real. Whereas a free thinker, a true detective, a true investigator that has that pie chart meme on their desktop as the background is going to use those tools as simply tools to help facilitate the thinking process in them. They're not the be all and end all. And to always remember that there's been so much hidden from us, so much that is unknown, that the little shards of truth that we have, which are great and say a lot and could hope lead us to greater truths, greater discoveries, greater awakenings, but that's only the beginning. And yet some of these chumps, they get a little shard of it, and then they lord it like it's the fucking end of everything. And then they attack and besmirch the people who are the genuine article. And then because those people are willing to go where no one else dares to go in their researches, because they kept that mantle of truth as the goal, they don't have the big followings. Because you see, the vast majority of humanity does not want to know. They want to know enough that they feel they can control, and that's it. I got to feel like I'm in control. Anything beyond that, I don't want to know about it. I got to feel reassured. And then it's about who's right. And it's not about what's true, it's about who's right. And then it's not about what's true, it's about who's got the biggest following. And it's not about what's true, it's about who can get the best sizzle reel out there to dazzle everybody and get the 1 million follows and monetize that shit. And I'm not against people. I praise and applaud success. Like, go and get that. Just don't sell your soul in the process. And it's laughable to me that people will come and accuse someone like me of this, when I've been shadow banned since before it was cool. And my mentors before me were shadow banned before me. So all you guys experiencing shadow banning today, you're a bunch of babies compared to the people I grew up with. And they're still shadow banned. And these are geniuses. These are people that would take your average influencer and turn them into fucking mashed potatoes, okay? Like, and yet that big influencer has millions of followings and gets the pulpit, and people love that because it's simple. See, real investigation is not simple. Real investigation into the truth of things is not simple. Just go talk to any detective or any prosecuting attorney. It's not simple. The truth is not simple, and it's not comforting, and it's not gonna trend, and it's not gonna be integrated into the AI algorithms. It's not gonna be promoted. It's not gonna be easy access. It's not gonna be low-hanging fruit. That is not the nature of truth, and the only reason that is the case is because this is something to do with human consciousness. There are barriers. There's traumatic barriers built up over time. It's an atavistic function in our minds. I feel it, you feel it, we all know what I'm talking about. There's a resistance to this process because A, it's hard work. It takes a lot of time and energy. And everybody's looking for what's the easiest way to get ahead. Not what's the way that's gonna actually fulfill me as a mind and a soul and a body, but what is the easiest way through? That's our culture now. That's what makes up this freedom resistance movement, or whatever you want to call it, the people resisting tyranny and lies. A shadow of its former self. When we say that we stand on the shoulders of giants, those giants are now 100 feet taller than they used to be, given the current status of where the average truth seeker is today. And yeah, I can say this because I've been in this I've put 20 years of my life into observing this. As I'm getting a little older, I get a little more clout. I got some more experience, and I can go, no, I get to talk like the old man now. I get to say, you kids and your hippity hop and your tickety talk and your AI ChatGPT bullshit. Did you learn how to think along the way? You listening right now, did your brain learn how to think? Do you realize thinking is something that you are capable of doing? I'm not meaning to be insulting. I've got to make fun of this a little bit because it's really, it's shockingly bad, shoddy, crappy research. It's brutal. I'm talking in the big meta conversations, in the trending conversations, in the trending podcaster bros, in the trending popular thinking of the day. There's always the popular thinking of the day, and that's going to change. Now we're in an era where that changes by the second now. Like that used to take like an era of time to rinse out and then replace with a new way of thinking. And now it's like every week there's like a whole new system coming in. Half of it, if not more, are just psyops. Everybody's just regurgitating what they heard or what they saw that made an impression upon them. And like Gustave Le Bon once said, if the crowd is fickle, the crowd is not seeking after truth. He's talking about the masses. That's the crowd. I love that term. The crowd is not, they never thirst after truth. What do? They go after what most easily seduces them. You want to be seduced because you want to be loved. And if you have no self-love and you're not getting love from those around you, you'll get the love from the thing that's trying to seduce you. And that's your God now. Your God will always be the thing that you perceive that loves you the most. Not ever going to be you loving you, which is what your God would command of you, by the way. No. It always has to be others to me. And I believe there's a relationship between that little psychological trick we play on ourselves to mask our childhood trauma and shadow projections, and what I'm complaining about here with the shoddy state of the front line, if you want to call it that. The front line's looking pretty shoddy. Everybody's got their shields hanging down by their knees right now. There's only a few Spartans left that can actually hold their shield up to the required level to form a shield wall and a phalanx. Everybody else, they're potters. They're stablemen sweeping the shite from the horses. I'm just calling it as I see it. I'm not trying to say I'm better than anybody. I've just been in the trenches long enough to see it and know better. And I'm not talking about even my research here. I feel like my research is mostly made up of other people's research. I'm just kind of a collector, and I just share what I get, and I use my intuition and my logic to try to collate it, and I do the best I can, and I'm not perfect, and I'm definitely not always right. But I've got an eye for wisdom. I've got an eye for truth I've got an eye for genuine, authentic people. And they're not saints. They're not the nicest people. They're not the kindest. Everybody's like, well, if they're kind, they must be intelligent. No. Look at the radical left. Suicidal empathy, suicidal kindness. We're going to be so kind that we're going to give criminals all the rights and the power and just give it all away. Like that's insanity. But people are fooled by surface layers. They get caught up in like the ridiculous amount of shit that I see about, I'll bring on a guest that has a brilliant idea, but maybe they've got a bit of a lisp, or they're wearing a weird sweater or something, and that's where people's focus goes to, and they don't listen to what they actually said. Because you don't want the truth. You're going to find every excuse possible to make sure that truth does not reach your brain. Because what does that do? It threatens your reality. It threatens your worldview, and that's scary. And nobody wants to feel things that are scary. Everybody's scared enough. Why would we want to add more on top of that? But don't you see that that's the requirement for us to get through this war? Is to go through the demons and go through the trenches and go through the dragon-infested villages to get to the Holy Grail. That's always the quest of the hero. It's never this easy stroll through the park to just pick up the key that opens up Aladdin's cave. It's basically all the myths and all the legends are trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you that the path towards the good, the path towards the truth, the path towards freedom the path towards all of your dreams and aspirations is fraught with goblins and witches and warlocks and deceivers and manipulators and slime and, you know, giant spiders trying to suck your blood out of you. Like, this is the reality of the world we live in, and everybody then equates that as being, oh, we live in the fallen evil world. No, you're being tested. Stop whining. You're being tested. That's what this is. Are you strong enough? Because with the truth comes the strength to wield it. With freedom requires the strength to wield it. You can't just have freedom. You don't just get it. It doesn't get handed out to you. This is what these wokies don't get. You can't blame everybody else for your problems. So don't live in victim consciousness, okay? That's what woke is, by the way. Victim consciousness. Done. We've explained it. Both the woke right and the woke left, they suffer from the same derangement, victim consciousness. Done. If you operate on victim consciousness, you didn't get the memo that Earth is a dojo. It's this way on purpose, not because it's an evil fallen world, but because freedom exists. Evil exists because freedom exists. Don't you get that? And so then what happens? You get a bunch of boogaloo cults and religions out there saying, well, then let's eradicate freedom. Freedom is evil. It's a false equivalency. And these are the people that don't see the pie chart. They don't see it's way bigger than you know. That's what I love about this meme. That's why I'm doing a whole video on this. Most people, this is the awakening process. That meme is the awakening process. Process number 1, what you know. Okay, what do I know? What do I know about the world in which I live, in which I'm raising my children? What do I know about myself? What do I know about my psyche and the condition that it's in? How did it get in that condition? What do I know about my hopes and dreams? And what do I know about my doubts and fears? What do you know? What do you know about history? What do you know about mass psychology? What do you know about how the media operates? What do you know about how the legal system operates? What do you know about how the monetary system operates, or the government, or where we're at in the movie that we're all watching right now? What do you know? Well, you know a couple things. Good for you. That's white belt. What's the next stage? You finally get to the point where you go, wait, there's things I don't know. All right, there's things I don't know. That's where the humility starts to come in and go, damn, and then the more you start to know things, actually, the more the vista opens up, and then you go, oh shit, I've learned some things. That I know. But all I learned was that now there's a bunch more things that I'm aware of that I don't know. That's the beginning of wisdom, says Socrates, right? And then you keep going through that and you're still there. You're maybe like green belt now, okay? And then what's the next one? What's the sage level? What's the genius level that Walter Russell spoke about, that anybody can get to, by the way? Genius is not just something that's like a genetic thing. Genius is a who's gone through the fire of this world and come out stronger and come out the better for it. That's a genius. Someone can see multiple perspectives at once without accepting them all dogmatically. There's no dogma in the genius. There's no fundamentalism in the genius. Because dogma and fundamentalists close the mind and are trapped in fear of being wrong and fear of investigating outside of its domain. The genius mind is unfettered by that. It is unrestricted by that. It is now open, and with that comes a much less restricted view of things. And those are the people I look for, and you can tell almost immediately who you're talking to when you see this. And like I said, they're not always the nicest. because they're kind of jaded by this battle, but you can hear the wisdom, right? So don't look for superficial characteristics as your measurement for virtue. That's kindergarten. And so that the big vista is the final part of that meme. That's the genius sage level. You are now aware of not just what you know and not just what you don't know. You're now aware that you're now aware of what you don't know that you don't know. Like it's like another level. You go, oh shit. And what does that do? That installs more humility in you as you pursue this. Now, that leads to the next point that I find is confusing in people. Especially because I live in Canada and we're like ultra British, polite, everybody just be nice. Don't talk, don't speak at the dinner table about facts. Don't have hard discussions with people about things. We can't stimulate too much thinking because thinking is offensive and people get anxious and can't have that. And I'm bringing this up now, which is when I'm talking about humility intellectually as you pursue these mysteries and questions. I'm actually speaking more of a self-humility against yourself. That there's an inner voice that you have that is the wise sage always and from the beginning, okay? And then there's the mind of the world that's been programmed by the world throughout the course of your life that has a bunch of old genetic memory baggage, and the baggage of the memory of this life. And so the humility comes in when you can better train that more immature voice that's still maturing because it's new. And it's trying to synchronize with the old ancient voice in you. That is never going to steer you wrong because it is the voice of spirit, I believe, the voice of consciousness. It's you're a conduit for that voice. So there's a humility in learning that. But when I'm saying this, I feel like people think that now you just have to bend. If you're humble, you now have to just listen to all their ways of seeing everything and be like, well, if you're super humble, then why aren't you promoting my theory on your show? Why aren't you interviewing the people that I keep telling you should interview? Why aren't you reading the books that I think you should be reading? No, like, what's the instinct to convert me or anybody into anything? I never started this out with the desire to convert anybody to a particular belief, because if I were to say, like, what's your particular political view? I wouldn't even know where to begin to describe my political view. It's a mix of a lot of things right now. Or what's your philosophical view? Man, it's a mix. It's a kind of a hybrid. What's your view on this and that? Wait, I've got time for a bunch of different theories all at the same time. I don't really know. I'm humble in the state of it. Okay? And so what I'm getting at here is there's a difference between humility and confidence in your mind and in what you're doing. And people then take the confidence that you have and they blow it up into egoism or narcissism. And there's only two reasons for this. Either they're right and you are being openly narcissistic and they're just calling you on it, or any semblance of confidence that's displayed is like a bright flashlight right in the eyes of the people that are suffering from that little man and little woman syndrome, that feel small next to somebody that has grown into a giant. And instead of saying, hey, I'm the small one right now, maybe I could also grow into a giant and should look at that as an example to follow, what do? Crab in the bucket time. And so I'm onto this dynamic. I can see it coming a mile away, and it's rampant everywhere. It's rampant. And it's sad to see in this movement because we need Spartans right now, not potters. Okay? When you're fighting great evil with both hands tied behind your back, you you need some strong warriors in that fight, and the strong warriors I'm talking about are the best of both. Now, I'm going to say this in a way that I'm not trying to say I have achieved that. I'm telling you this with the most amount of humility that I can summon to say this is what I aspire towards. This is what I look up to. This is what I want to be. These are my mentors and heroes and my projections, right? This is what I want for myself. And I know where my shortcomings are. Does that in any way, shape, or form dissuade my confidence level? Nope. Not a titch. Nor should it you. I also learned this principle training jiu-jitsu, which I'm really obsessed with right now. Really back in. I'm running my martial arts school. If you want to see updates on that stuff, you can see me on Instagram and Facebook. I use that more for, talking about that stuff. And I love disciplines and art forms that are very good metaphors for life. And I just haven't found one that's as good as something like jiu-jitsu or martial art training. But that's just because it's what saved me in my life and helped me. Saved me from a bleak outlook in the world, from getting involved in a lot of trouble as I was growing up, and it saved my mind. And I thought that was interesting. I wasn't expecting it to do that. I was just doing it as some kind of outlet. I thought it was cool, and then it ended up like repairing me on so many different levels and empowering me on so many different levels. And I always was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe there's some kind of somatic connection there. You need to move your body as a form of therapy instead of just sitting there thinking big thoughts all the time. And because all my stars aligned. If you look at my birth chart, and I'm a sit there and think it all through, and solitude, and and so for me to go into the martial arts was huge. And what I learned in jiu-jitsu is the value of failure, the value of experimentation, the value of shifting the way you see things happening to you in that art form, which is mostly you're just going to get destroyed for a long time. You're going to fail, you're going to look retarded, you're going to be embarrassed, you're going to lose far more than you're ever going to win and succeed. And that's for a long extended period of time. That the skill set that you eventually earn is it's only earned by going through the fire. So it's a very good metaphor for what I'm talking about. And that's why I say Earth is a dojo. It's not a fallen evil place. It has the potential for good and evil. It's a template. We live in a template that could be anything. It's a mirror reflection of where human consciousness is at that time, in that place. And you can see this because in some places we have brilliance, we have art, we have freedom, we have prosperity, or at least more than other places where you have tyranny and oppression and barbarity and living in medieval consciousness. So you get to see both. So that means the potential for expressing the good and the evil is there. If you see more evil, that isn't a reflection on the fallen world. That's a reflection on the current state of development of human consciousness. Because the evil that we're seeing is not coming from the animal kingdom. It's not coming from the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom. It's not coming from anywhere else except from the minds of human beings. So Earth is a template. This life is a template for you. You could even be living, and we have many examples of this. I talk about these thinkers and writers all the time who lived in absolute evil and tyranny and gulags and concentration camps and war zones and poverty, and they looked the worst side of humanity up close, and they came out and produced genius in spite of it. And so I see this principle in the jiu-jitsu training for myself, where I got comfortable being uncomfortable. I got comfortable getting knocked down and having to get back up again and go back to the drawing board. I got comfortable getting roundly embarrassed by people half my size. It's quite embarrassing to go through that. It's quite emasculating. Only to come out on the other side totally changed, totally far more empowered. And now the evidence of all that hard work is there. And that's empowering. And so if it can happen in that arena, it can happen in the arena of thought. And so I've had to go through that journey as well with all these subjects I talk about, all these things I get into. Where, yeah, I know I'm up against the chopping block anytime I do anything publicly. Because I know I'm going to be I'm going to get the psychological projection. So you got to have a higher purpose for doing it. And the higher purpose is to forge myself into a better thinker, into take all this information and get closer to the truth, and then share it with the people who are on the same path. Which, thank God, there are plenty of those as well. Which, once again, gives me more hope in the world and humanity. So, you must stay humble, but never, ever confuse humility with walking around with your eyes down and apologizing all the time and, just completely selling yourself short and not having any confidence about how you approach this. So just to say, check out that meme. I'll post a link to it in the description for you guys if you haven't seen it. It's just, when I saw it, I was like, that's the perfect visual for this. And I was inspired to rant a little bit here for you. So I hope it added a little bit of value. Learn to trust your own mind. And if you're going to trust your own mind, that means you got a lot of work ahead of you, because you're going to have to go and train your mind. And you're going to have to forge your mind. It's a creative thing. It's a co-creative process. So you've got to make your mind into something that's valuable. Make who you are as somebody that's valuable. Learn to value yourself. And what's interesting is that you then learn to finally know how to genuinely value others. If you just pretend to value everybody else, but you have no self-value that you haven't created within yourself, it's fake. And it's obvious that it's fake. But if you want the real thing, it's an inside job, not an outside job. And if we're going to get closer to these things that I believe we all want here, at least the genuine people want, which is more freedom, but with the right context of what freedom really is. And we want more prosperity, which is available. It's within the realm of possibility. We want more reason and sanity and logic, and we want to promote the virtues. We want to promote the good side of humanity and turn this world around, and not just suffer under the delusion that it's just fixed to be this prison hellhole, which is very black-pilled. And then also to realize that to have those things is not going to come from some artificial intelligence. That doesn't mean you need to do away with the tools that are available through these technologies, but I've always said it, that I'm not against technology. I'm against technology ruling you. You should rule technology. And a genius mind, a sage mind, a developed mind has the capacity to do that. The vast majority of the masses sadly do not. The political elites know this. So we're in a bit of a pickle. But are you going to be a victim about it? Or are you going to be the change you want to see? So we got to cleanse the victim consciousness. That'll get rid of all the extreme cult ideology running around, and all the wokes and all the tyranny and all the, like, just that alone would do a great service, is get rid of victim consciousness, which is oozing from everywhere and is easy to fall for, and is what will drive up your followership. If you want to get big channels, just start selling victim consciousness and you'll explode. You'll do fantastic. But you'll never be the real thing, will you? You'll be sold out. You'll be censoring yourself. You'll become an expression of all those hungry followers, like so many cult leaders have done. It's always a relationship, by the way. It's never just a one-way street. The cult leader starts to embody the cult followers and vice versa. It's a relationship that goes down the path of madness right into the abyss. Don't go down that path, and just become a true free thinker that is unslaved from all of these rules and everything that people put upon your mind when you're thinking. Thinking is not based on that. Thinking is a process, and it's a trained process. It's not something that happens overnight. So don't, try to avoid being stuck in the mud. And your opinions and your worldview had better be adjusting and changing over time. If you're still spouting the same crap you were 15, 20 years ago today, that's not progress. I mean, obviously, if you found some like foundational truths that are just immutable and immovable through time, that's different. I'm talking about, like, this is a art form of how to evolve and express yourself. This is some Bruce Lee shit, So there you have it, guys. There's my thoughts on all that stuff. I wish you well. Truth is going to win. Freedom is going to win. And, the forces of evil ain't shit. They just think they are. So, let the good times roll.